Hey, you guys, this is Dear Shamika with the Cheat Code, and we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Trenton Watson, who is the vice principal at Manassas. Me and Dr. Trenton graduated from one of the best schools, in our opinion, ever, which is the Tennessee State University. So, we're going to come at you guys with some advice for either parents who have college students, or parents who have college students, parents who their kids are looking to go to school, or even those who graduated and basically need help and support in transitioning after college, or even kids who are thinking about going to college. So, Dr. Trent, what would you say were some of your best experiences from going to college?
I think for me, the best experience going to college was actually just getting a chance to attend, because a lot of times people who look like us are told, especially coming from an impoverished area, they're told that our chances to go to college and let alone finish are slim and none. And so I experienced some things in high school that made me feel like going to college was might not be an option, even though I came from a family where my mother went to college. I had aunts and uncles that went to college, cousins who were in college, but I had some teachers that kind of, put some disparity on me and made me feel like, man, it's going to be a struggle for me to get there. So once I got to school and saw that I was able to not only get to school, but I actually thrive in school, it made me feel very, very good about my chances in life. And I was like, wow, so I actually can do this. And so I did make a promise once I got accepted into college and started to attend to my grandmother that I would take school as far as I could in terms of getting that terminal degree, which of course I attained. But it's important when you go to school that you remember the toughest person that you're going to have to face in college is that person on the other side of the mirror.
What do you feel were some challenges when you initially got to college?
The biggest challenge for me was being on my own and not having someone standing over you saying, "Hey, it's time to get up. It's time to go to school. It's time to get focused." Because unlike in high school, you have people that may come to you and say, "Hey, you didn't turn this in, or this wasn't done." Hey, or you got a parent that's saying, "Hey, it's 6:30. It's time to get up. You got to be at school at 7:15." You don't have
Mhm,
that. You have to have some get up and go about yourself. You got to
mhm,
have push because
mhm,
you have somebody standing over you doing that. Even though you have instructors, like when we went to Tennessee State, you did have instructors that cared about your well-being. They may, nudge you, say, "Hey, I'm still waiting on that assignment," every now and then. But what you have to understand is whether you pass or fail, those people are going to get paid anyway. So guess what? This is about you, and you have to take some responsibility and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. I know many people that came into Tennessee State when I that did not make it. And some of them are suffering from it today because they didn't put their best foot forward. And for whatever reason, they ended up coming home or going into some other area. Now, some of them ended up going back to school, which is a blessing because education is the one thing that they can't take from you. But some of it was a struggle for some because they had to adapt to what was going on, and they would rather party and kick it, as we used to say, than to buckle down and take care of business so they could get out of college.
How did college change you? Because I know for me, I'm not the same person I was leaving Memphis, going to Tennessee State. It changed me overall as a person. And when I say changed me, it changed me for the better. College really grew me up. How did going to Tennessee State change you?
It changed me because I was able to meet people from all different parts of the country and see that there were different perspectives than the ones I had. I saw that some people had different values growing up. different ideals, and it helped to expand my horizons when it came to how to deal with people in general. It was just incredible. Even though there's a large percentage of people at Tennessee State that are from Memphis, there's also people from Atlanta, from Chicago, Detroit, California, New York, Florida. So you meet all people from all walks of life and develop friendships with these people. So much so that, a lot of people from Memphis ended up moving to other parts of the country because of the relationship they built while they were in college. And sometimes going home with people for Thanksgiving, or, visiting people over the summer because they wanted to see, because a lot of people didn't get outside of Memphis, believe it or not. Um, Amazingly, some people going from South Memphis to Bartlett was like going on a out of town vacation. So when you're able to go to Atlanta, or go to Tampa, or go to Detroit, and go to Dallas, Texas, or Chicago, and you visit with other families, and you see how people live, and some people, like, again, there are some values that are the same, but some people's ideals are different, and it was able to just, like, wow, man, I didn't know about that growing up. And it's amazing what you learn once you are introduced to and exposed to other people and other cultures and other ideals.
And you talked about your teachers or different people not necessarily believing in people, or are almost having a preconceived notion of who people are based upon where they're from.
Right.
How do you feel college could, or exposed to college, could help someone who doesn't get to see, like you mentioned, being exposed to different areas within the world? But besides that, how do you feel college could take a person who is exposed to only poverty and suffering and
Mhm.
develop them into someone who is hopeful?
Well, one of the things is, sometimes people come into college and they have a certain expectation. And when you come from a certain area and you've had these experiences and you get blessed, a lot of times people come from impoverished area are the most hungry individuals that you ever want to meet, because their perspective is, I got to do all I can so I don't end up stuck in this box and I can't get out. I don't
Mhm.
want to box. And so those individuals seemingly work harder, they study longer, they don't focus on the things that can distract them from their ultimate goal as much, because they have an agenda. Their agenda is set before they get there. Because number one, it was a blessing for them to get to college. And they do not take it for granted that they are in school. And so when they get to school, it's all about, hey, I gotta graduate. That's important to me. I gotta finish. That's important to me. And nobody's gonna knock them off their square from doing that, because they know that they have people that are depending on them to finish this journey. And that's important. That mindset is what you really need going in the school, period. Is when you get there, it's not just about being in college, it's about finishing the job. You started, you got to finish.
And I know previously you talked about some of your maybe classmates that didn't finish the journey. What can you say the opportunities are that were afforded to you due to the fact of you finishing?
The beauty of it is when you finish the journey, um, a lot of it is about relationships. And the longer you're there, the more relationships you develop. And you never know who you're going to run into. And you never know who's going to be connected. As much as Tennessee State is a dynamic HBCU, which it is, there are people from that have graduated from Tennessee State all over the world. So you never know, whatever industry that you're in, who you might run that may be a graduate of the great land. And so building those relationships and going all over, even now, I'm dealing with a situation in the school based on the relationship that I have with a person that graduated from Tennessee State and building financial literacy with our students. But that's based on the fact that this young individual, she has empowered young people financially and now bringing this to the school. But that's based on our relationship and us graduating from that school. And so it's just important that you network, that you talk to people. Don't be standoffish. You don't have to open up to everyone, but at least, find your niche. And when you find it, stay there and help that to grow. You gotta harvest that niche because it's important. It's critical to your development, not only while you're in college, but when you graduate.
Mm-hmm. You brought up an amazing point because I was one of those people when I went to college. I said, I just want to graduate. I don't want to deal with, although I'm a social butterfly now, when I was in college, my biggest thing was I just want to graduate. I want it to be over with. And I thought that employers would be lined up at my door. I thought the degrees were enough, but I soon found out that networking and rapport building is essential to your success, not only in college, but it can also leverage you after college. So, to individuals who are in college, but they are afraid of networking, what are some progressive steps that they could take to kind of get a little bit more comfortable with networking?
Now I can tell you I was a pretty shy individual going in, but I learned very quickly that a closed mouth does not get fed. It is important. And I created Dr. Brady, who was public relations instructor at Tennessee State, with helping to um, bridge that gap between being nervous, standoffish, to actually being open and being able to communicate with people. Because public speaking, it's one of the most challenging things for any individual to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in his class, one of the techniques that he taught was, and I still use it today, was how much do you value your name? And when we had to find value in our name, it helped us to go out and promote that very name that we had. And remember, I told you the biggest opponent that you have is that person on the other side of the mirror. So standing up for your name and making sure your name was in a good place was important to us, because he made it a point for us to push the agenda behind our name. Where do you want this name to be in 10 years? Where do you want this name to be in 20 years? How valuable is your name? And so I took that and I ran with it because it was important. Like, you're not going to have anything bad attached to my name. I need my name to be in a good place, and that was critical when it came to his class. And so I use that as a lifelong analogy. It's like, man, what do you want your name to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And so making your name great, that's critical with building relationships, because people need to know, hey, oh yeah, so when people say your name, oh, that's Shamika, I got her all the way live. She's good. She's good. Just based on people saying your name, that's critical.
And I can't, like I said, I learned after college, but I think also a lot of people don't realize even like the development that I was gaining from college. I didn't realize that I was being developed until I came back to Memphis and my interactions were different. And I realized a lot of the teachings I learned from TSU, it really grew me up into somebody like a different person, because I don't know if when you were there they would, like, if we acted a fool, they would shame you for acting a fool. So if you acted a fool, it's almost like, we're from Memphis, and sadly, some of us across the country, we have a reputation for acting a certain way. So they be like, oh, you must be from Memphis. So I didn't want that that negative connotation on the city, because I'm trying so hard to be cool and fit in. And it I guess it was, my experience was, it was a different atmosphere for me because the expectation changed. So when you're down here, in Memphis, certain people may look at you and think it like, oh, this person's acting a fool, but they're not verbalizing it. But when it's a mixture of people, people feel a lot more bold in telling you like, you need to straighten up. And even seeing the people dressed up to go to class, in heels and suits, dresses, just it changed the mindset of it changed my mindset as far as, dressing a certain way, speaking a certain way, as well as acting a certain way, and not always feeding into this negative stereotypes of what it meant to be from Memphis. For these the parents who feel like their kids, like, I've lost my child, I don't feel like they're going anywhere, or they aren't, going to be anything, but they don't necessarily verbalize those things out loud. What is the benefit of a parent for actually taking their children on college tours and exposing them to individuals who are in college?
Well, you just said it. It's about the exposure. Um, they have to see something different. It's important. Um, give them an opportunity to, make a decision, make an informed decision for themselves, because ultimately, it's about them growing up to become productive individuals. And so, whether they go to college or not, which we would pray because they have the opportunity to do so, that they take advantage of that opportunity. And I tell my students all the time, don't let anybody shame you for going to a 2-year institution. Guess what? It's free right now. So as long as it's free, you might want to take advantage of it if that opportunity presents itself. It's okay. If you go to a 4-year institution, go somewhere where it's as least expensive as possible. If you can go for free, great. If you can't, try to get all the money you can so you don't have to pay out of pocket or get those dreaded student loans that follow you for life. But also to piggyback on what you were saying about the shaming factor and being from Memphis, a lot of people um, tag people from Memphis by one specific thing. If you were around school and you, hey man, automatically, oh, you from Memphis. And you automatically had a stereotype. They didn't know what part of Memphis you were from, what high school you went to, but everybody in Memphis pretty much had the same slang. And so a lot of times I would be intentional, and I worked hard on my speech, and I worked hard on the way I spoke, because I wanted to make sure that when people spoke to me, they didn't know. I always keep them guessing. So I would tell my students, you got to learn how to turn it off and turn it off, turn it on. Guess what? I can go to the hood and I can speak the same lingo language that everybody else from Memphis. I love it. But I can also sit in the boardroom and I can speak to individuals about building, changing the financial perspective of the neighborhood, or bringing grocery stores to a food desert like we are having North Memphis right now. But if I was outside, I would say North Memphis. See, that's the difference, because that's that's what the exposure brings you. The exposure makes you dangerous because now I bring in I bring in even more, now a bigger knowledge base. So my knowledge base is expanded. I'm better, not better than the people where I come from, but I'm better because now I can help those people to build them up. So, all right, now this is what we're getting ready to do. Our strategy is going to change. This is what it's about. It's about being strategic. Becoming that productive citizen is about being strategic, and that's critical.
Okay. For those who say, because I hear it a lot, even when I graduated out of college, don't mean nothing. Like I actually had a person who actually was very bold before I actually got into my career field. I was actually a warehouse associate because I didn't learn the skills necessary. Like I said, I was just bent on I need to get out of college. So I didn't realize how essential a resume, interview skills, and things that go along with getting the education go hand in hand. So this person boldly said to me as I was a warehouse associate, I mean, a degree don't matter. Look at you. Why does a degree matter? Like, do you feel like a degree does matter? Do you feel like a degree leverages you, or do you feel like it does not matter whether or not you have a degree?
I think that a degree does matter. I think it does give you leverage, but I also believe in the relationship piece. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say this as carefully as I possibly can. Having a degree is great, but what you do with that degree is what really matters. Because some people just get the degree, and then what? What are you doing? Don't think just because you got the degree that the grind ends. You still got to grind. You still got to work. You still got to push. You got to make yourself marketable. The more you add to that foundation, which the degree is, it's the foundation. You got to build on that foundation. So when people see you or when people hear you speak, they know you know what you're talking about. They know that you're coming from a place where they can, okay, I can put my trust in that because that person knows what they're doing. Just getting a degree is not as solid as on the job training because you need that. That's why it was important to do internships while we're in college because you get that training. So not only do I have a degree, but guess what? I got the experience too. So it's a catch 22, but having as much education as possible is so critical. So people won't pull the wool over your eyes because they'll try.
And definitely will, but like I kind of have to piggyback off of what you said as far as leverage, because what people don't realize is training, you can, I'm not going to say easily, but let's say you are doing, let's say you have a different a certain trade, and you say I have X amount of experience. Let's say Dr. Trent goes out and gets that experience, and then he has a doctor in front of his name. So now he has the experience you have, as well as the education. And that education, as well as those certifications, if you see Dr. Trent and you see Shamika, you know what I mean? Like, let's say Shamika didn't get any education, but I say, well, I got the experience, but Dr. Trent went off and got the experience. Is You got
Yeah,
to think about it. It's just that
sometimes
that is going to be a determining factor, or is this going to be a differential thing that's going to make it a no brainer? Say, hey, I want to choose Dr. Trent.
right. Sometimes that it works that way. But that's why it's important to make sure that get adequate experience because Shamika could be more qualified for the job, but it works like that. But that again goes back to the relationship piece and you putting in the effort. But what's for you is for you. It's going to be laid out just for you. It's designed, and it doesn't matter what letters a person has in front of or behind their. What's yours is yours, and I've always been a firm believer that if the seat belongs to you, nobody else can sit in it. And if they try, it's not going to last long because the seat was designed for you.
That's absolutely true. Okay, we're about to wrap this up. What is some final advice you have for individuals, maybe parents that have graduates or students who are graduating that are thinking about college, or even students that are maybe beginning high school that they have thought about college or have put the thought in the back of their mind?
Well, I'm right in the middle of it because I have a child that's graduating this year. And the advice that I gave to her, initially was like, well, Dad, I think I'm going to stay close to home because, hey, I don't know what it'll be like going far away. I said, you go where you're most comfortable. I'm going to be excited if you go somewhere in Memphis or if you go in Fairfax. It's totally going to be up to you because I have graduated already. It's your turn now. You
Hmm.
have to go out and find your own way. You have to have that experience because and I told her, college can be tough. There are going to be some times when you're going to have to buckle down really, really hard. It may be a little struggle, but no, you have to build your support system. I did it when I was in college. Your mother did it when she was in college. You have to build a support system around you of people who will push you and help you to be the best that you can be. And they want to see you be successful, and you want to see them be successful. We'll never let each other fail because you know what? It's important that we finish this journey. And that's the bottom line. People at home, people at school, people in your circle that's going to push you to be the best you that you can be. That's what the bottom line is.